Good afternoon. We're back from our afternoon session. We'll be continuing to take up our DMV miscellaneous bill, and one of the sections we'll be talking about today is section 25 of S 123, and we have Matt Coda, who's going to be giving testimony on that section. So, Matt, if you want to take it away and share your thoughts.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Parker and members of the committee. My name is Matt Coda with the firm Meadow Hill, here on behalf of both the Vermont Fuel Dealers Association and the Vermont Retail Grocers Association Motor Fuel Division. And the section, just to confirm that you'd like me to comment on is I think I have the number right, which is we're limiting the time for which a entity can apply for the refund on the diesel tax.
Correct.
And I speaking to both those organizations, and they are fine with the way it's structured in the DMV. So I can stop talking now, but I could also point out what some people are often confused about, which is in my left hand.
Oh, yeah.
So the change, reducing it to a year instead of 3 years, people are all right. It seems like they want to get their rebate anyways. Why would they wait any longer? Yeah.
And I understand why the DMV wants to shorten it. I understand one or two entities might wait longer than a year, but it seems like it's prudent for your business or your municipality to apply for the refund in an expedient amount. But there's confusion about the two different types of fuel. So if I may, for 30 seconds.
Yep.
In my left hand is diesel fuel. In my right hand is diesel fuel. Do you know what the difference is?
Red dye.
Solvent red number 26 and 29 cents. So it's the exact same product. This is non-taxable. This is taxable. So this is 28 cents excise tax to the state of Vermont. It is 3 cents motor fuel transportation infrastructure fee and 1 cent petroleum cleanup fund. This is 2 cents to the weatherization fund and 1 cent to the petroleum cleanup fund. Exact same product, just with a solvent in there. If you put this in your diesel powered car or truck, you're in violation of both state and federal laws with a fine of a minimum of $1,000 because you're avoiding the tax
Do you carry those? You run them with you?
everywhere. It's my cologne.
There you go.
What's that answer?
2025. So as a fuel dealer, whether you're buying it at the pump or you're buying it distributed to you, I can sell this to a tax exempt entity. And the entity either the fuel company selling it can apply for the refund, or the entity that's receiving it and using it, such as a school bus or a municipality, apply for their refund. As a fuel dealer in Vermont, you can still sell this, which is red dye diesel, to a municipality. So if it's got a red plate on it, or if it's a farm tractor or a train, this is what's being sold, with the 2 cents to the weatherization and the 1 cent to the cleanup fund. If you sell them this, 1 cent to the cleanup fund, but the 31 cents that the state usually gets, they don't get.
I'm gonna play off of a few weeks ago, Chris was talking about, weren't you saying something about, I know maybe I'm not supposed to do it, but you were saying something about up in Canada, they have the fuel.
In Canada.
So if a guy drives down from up in Canada and gets DOT checks his truck, whether it be a pickup truck or whether it's a big truck, is he gonna get the book thrown at him? So basically if somebody gets caught with a dye in their truck, they gotta say, hey, I was up in Canada?
I do not know of that scenario. I can tell you though, the trucks will fill up in the United States because we're not part of the Western Climate Initiative. So diesel is more expensive and gasoline more expensive in Quebec than it is in Vermont.
But, yeah. They still do it that way, do they? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Representative White and then Representative Burke.
Thank you for that very helpful presentation. Would you just mind repeating? I just want to make sure I'm clear on the taxes on each of those. So that is the
So this
clear diesel.
is clear, what's called clear on-road diesel fuel.
Okay.
We sell approximately 60 million gallons of this product in Vermont every year. There's 32 cents state tax, 28 is an excise tax, 3 cents is the motor fuel infrastructure assessment fee, and 1 cent goes to the petroleum cleanup fund. That's the public insurance fund that was created back in 1986, I believe, which is a tremendous success. I'm on the Petroleum Cleanup Fund Advisory Committee, and this is what pays for when there's spills of underground storage tanks. This over here is the exact same product, but with solvent, red solvent number 26 injected into it to designate it as a non-taxable fuel. Non-taxable fuel in a taxable vehicle is a violation of state and federal law. It has a 2 cent per gallon weatherization tax on it called fuel tax, and a 1 cent per gallon petroleum cleanup fee, which again goes if there's a spill, that's the public insurance fund.
Representative Burke is next, and then.
Well, That was the question I was gonna ask, but I do have another question is why? How does this, what's the difference? I mean, what's the reason for the difference?
Between the dye and the
I
non,
mean, why is this taxed and this isn't?
they're both taxed, just different ways and going to different places. This goes to pay for the roads. This pays for spills, and it pays for weatherization. Often the question I get, not to lead the witness or the questioner, but often is why are diesel that goes into school buses and farm tractors and engines, locomotives, paying for weatherization? That's the most common question I get. And the reason why is this is also heating oil. Diesel fuel and heating oil are essentially the same. Now, heating oil, you don't need cetane. Cetane is like octane for gasoline. So there's different, but it is dyed red and it is a distillate product, fuel oil number 2. And when the legislature in 1990 decided to add a tax to support low-income weatherization on heating fuel, they didn't discern between dyed diesel used for tractors and farm equipment and municipalities and school buses and the same product that's used for heating someone's home. They just said all of it. And that decision made in 1990 is with us today in 2025. So this is paying for, we sell 20 million gallons of it. It's not a whole lot of money, but it's 60 million gallons of this, 20 million gallons of this.
And why is
A
there
year.
a difference? Why are the trains and school buses and et cetera? How are they allowed, I mean, municipal vehicles too,
Yep.
how are they allowed to use that? Why are they allowed to use that, only that and not? Yeah, I'm not making,
No.
not a judgment about it, I'm just trying to understand.
So this is 29 cents a gallon more expensive than this.
Right,
And so they are allowed to use this. They're,
because of being like nonprofit. state.
right. They can also use this, but if they use this, they deserve a refund or they get a refund under the law.
This is what we're
and-
talking about.
And this section of the DMV miscellaneous bill says you still get your refund, but you got to get your money within a year. You can't wait 35 months and then show up to the DMV with a basket full of invoices and say, check, please. And I sympathize with the DMV saying, can we deal with this in real time? And that's why we're supportive of the DMV. The Vermont Retail Grocers Association, Motor Fuels Division of the Vermont Fuel Dealers Association is supportive of the DMV because we understand this is just good policy. We appreciated a 3-year window, but we're willing to concede that to make their life easier, we could live within that time frame.
Can you just give us a couple examples of, when somebody would want to, they've been forced to buy the non-dyed or they bought the non-dyed and now they qualify for the dyed. And so now they do it. So just a couple examples of when that happens.
So a couple scenarios might that happen. For instance, they might contract with a supplier that doesn't have dyed diesel. So a supplier of gasoline and diesel fuel may not have that situation. So they say, listen, I only have clear diesel in supply. I'm going to deliver you clear diesel, but you're a municipality. So here's how you apply for the refund. Or they can take that upon themselves and deliver to them minus that 29 cents and apply for it themselves. That Dyed diesel is also sold by what we call pedal trucks, which are the 2,800 gallon trucks that might deliver heating oil to your house. Those same trucks will deliver dyed diesel out in rural areas of Vermont to the farmer, to the forester. And so for them, that's what they have in their tank. Just a de minimis amount of solvent number 26 will change this color. And again, you don't want to mix those two in the same tank when you're driving. You have different compartments, but so you have small users of dyed diesel often get this delivered in a truck that you might look at and say, that's a heating oil truck. Well, it's maybe delivering dyed diesel to a farmer. Whereas a tanker truck that might be hauling diesel fuel to underground tanks, which comes out of a pump, they're more likely to be selling this. And then their customers are either applying for the refund within that 36, now 12-month window, or they're doing that on behalf of the customer.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, just to clarify, because I was locked on to the clear diesel is when you're using on the road and the dyed is when you're not. But there are exceptions, and that's school buses
Yeah.
and
So
tractors, which are not necessarily on the road, but I guess for short periods of time. But are there other vehicles in addition to school buses and tractors that might be allowed to use the red dyes?
right. The simplest way to think about it is clear for a green plate, red for a red plate, like a municipality plate. However, within that, there are exceptions. So for instance, you might have a for-profit bus company that contracts with a school district. They're not a municipality. However, remember, all this money goes to the DMV, right? So the DMV on their form, you would say, I sold 20 million, or not 20, I sold 5,000 gallons to big bus company, and this was used for carrying school children, right? But if that big bus company then also does private contracting, that piece cannot be deducted. So in those cases, you would find a bus company would buy this, so that on their forms, when they apply for the refunds, they would show, well, half of our gallons of clear diesel went to send, the Rotary Club to Fenway Park. And then the other half was to move school kids around. They would only pay the tax on the gallons for the contract with the municipality and not for that for-profit entity. And then that's auditable. So the DMV would say, okay, prove it to us if they were audited.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? I have a different question. Thank you for joining us today. Matt, I'm sorry I was late. On a significant portion of this, look at exactly the sections. I didn't prepare this question in advance, but there's quite a bit of discussion about values of vehicles and determining values that may or may not be roadworthy, they're inspection worthy. Do you think that the vehicle dealers would want to be heard on any of this activity?
Let me take
your other hat.
Let me take my, no, it's on my car.
You don't have to testify right now, but if there's quite a bit in here, a lot of it's driven by Lieutenant Governor, a lot of it's driven by some struggles in the used car market. We could do it a little bit now, but if you wanted to,
I think
your dealers would want to be heard on it.
clear it up in 30 seconds. It
Okay.
really doesn't impact the dealers. This is really about private sales.
Okay.
This is about, I'm selling my car to you. You want to register it, and you bought it at a discount because it needs a ton of work. And right now the DMV looks at the Kelly Blue Book and says, well, that car is worth 10 grand. And then you said, well, I bought it for 5 because it needs $6,000 worth of work. And this would provide that opportunity to make sure that there's independent assessment and that's done. It really doesn't affect car dealers. So I appreciate you making that offer, but it's fine with us.
One more check mark that we can put through on our list of one of the things that we struggle with in this bill, and a lot of the changes that were driven by new council and by review of old language and pieces was trying to find out if there's another side to a number of these things other than the DMV's position, trying to understand who might be on the other side of some of these issues is trying to hear who else might be interested. And that's been a bit of a challenge. That's where my question is driven.
The car dealers are neutral on this policy. It's really between the DMV and those that would prefer to pay a lower purchase and use tax because they thought they bought a discounted vehicle because of a specific reason.
Okay.
Pearson's died too,
It is.
Any other piece?
over in New York and you're over there cleared and
Thanks.
you can get that clear in some places and you get it died in other places. Same, it's the same deal, it's a tax thing.
Is Damien still on track for 2:30? 2:45. Oh, 2:45 now. All right, Representative Pat?
So I already asked this question before, but not to you, I don't think. So I have a tractor to take care of my road. That doesn't go on the road. It just, takes care of a long dirt road and does some stuff, moving rocks and firewood and stuff. And I go down to Hart and Mead and I buy the dyed and put it in my 5-gallon can and I go and put it in my tractor. Is that allowed or?
Sure.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, if you get a farm tractor who's got somebody who has a real farm, or you're using a tractor in your property, that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You can buy either one. It will work equally well on your tractor, but this one you'll pay 29 cents more a gallon to, and it'll help fund the roads. This one you'll pay 3 cents and it'll pay for the Petroleum Cleanup Fund and low income weatherization, but it will do the exact same thing to your tractor.
If I bought the other one, could I go to the DMV and get my $1.50 back?
So you would have to provide some information. I don't know how that would work. That proves that you did not use it in an on-road vehicle, and I have no idea how you would do that. But perhaps someone else at this table might.
I could tell you how it could lie.
As long as you look at the witness and ask him, pretend to be asking him.
How would you do that?
Isn't there a form that you fill out that provides an exemption certificate?
I have a
the
copy of it,
dealer?
yeah.
So that they know that,
Yeah, if you're a tax exempt entity, in fact, a dealer must have that. This is not to tell, I don't want to waste your time, but
Well, we actually just. There's an area that we're not gonna get into, but there could be a whole number of areas that we can get into.
you would
We
think,
have 20 minutes that we.
I have 3 or 4 stories in my 20 years of doing this in which a dealer has sold clear diesel to a municipality, the town of blank, and been audited. And asked to prove that they sold this diesel, of which they asked for an exemption of that excise tax. And they said, well, what are you talking about? It's a town. It says it right on the bill of lading. They said, do you have a certificate that shows that they're tax exempt? So I have towns calling me saying, my fuel dealer is saying I must show them a tax exempt certificate. And I said, yeah, here's the backstory. Because they had to pay the tax after the fact, even though they thought it was clear that they were selling clear diesel for non-taxable purpose. So yeah, you'd have to obtain that certificate, and I don't know how you would obtain that as just a gentleman farmer who wants to grade his truck. But certainly farmers do provide that, because farmers use a lot of this and this. I don't want to say you're not a real farmer. Farmers that this is their business, where they're one of the largest users of dyed diesel fuel, non-taxable fuel in Vermont.
So Phil can put fuel, that dyed fuel in his tractor and just drive down the road and he's okay?
Well,
I was grading my road.
Okay, all right.
there's no license plate on a farm tractor, and so it's not roadworthy. Yes, you can drive it in between your farm property's on the other side of the road. You have farm property on either side of the highway, you can drive across the highway, but you can't go on 89 and drive to Montpelier
Yeah.
with a farm tractor.
Well, we got the state police coming in sometime, so I just wanted to get the story straight before they came in. Yeah. I just joking, Phil.
On another section of the bill,
We're live.
I know.
in your dealer portions, bulk electronic records requests. Is there anything that you're aware of that, anything to do with dealers that have any electronic record requests that they operate on any information out of the DMV that they pay and fees for?
Goodness, is this on the excise tax or?
Well, it just says section 33 is short. Commissioners shall be paid the following fees for miscellaneous transactions. Number 24, bulk electronic records requests will now be set at 30.303 per record. It's an existing activity, but it's not in the law anywhere, and we're putting it into the law to catch up to current practice.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And when it was in the Senate, I ran that through our team of people studying it, and they said no problem. So I can't give you any better information than that if you'd like more information, but I just know that it's not an issue that we need to flag, or that they asked me to flag.
More of those areas we're trying to find who might have an opinion on these things. So, okay. Well, unless there's another one of those stories upon stories that you've accumulated that you'd like to tell, or anybody else has any other questions, we're gonna go ahead and adjourn and wait till our legislative council arrives for the next section.